I'm Dean. I'm the dad.
I'm Laura. I'm the mom.
And I'm Krysta. I'm the daughter.
And together we are Family Plot. Well, hey, everybody. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am excellent. Krysta, how's work? School, I mean. Sorry.
Well, that is kind of a 13-year-old's work, Dad.
Yeah. It's going pretty good, but I'll save that for later.
Okay.
Today is my,
What's new with Krysta check-in?
Yes, and we will get to that here shortly.
You sure will.
I cannot wait myself.
Me either.
All righty. Well, we have a day lined up. I guess the first thing we should do is welcome the listeners, both new and old. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Also, if you want to help the show out, a few ways you can do that. You can go to Buy Me a Coffee and make a one-time donation. We like that. If you have it within you to do a monthly donation, you can go to Patreon, where we have Team Podcast, Team Spa Day, and Team Bunny.
Team Feed That Big Hungry Bunny.
That big chubby bunny.
Can we update the name to that? Team Feed the Big Hungry Chubby Bunny.
I can try. And notes 1, 3, 5, 10, whatever you can do, but it's a monthly thing. Also, if you can't do either of those, the easiest thing you can do is if you enjoy the show, share it with your friends on social media. If you don't enjoy the show, keep that to yourself. That's what we say. So let's get to our topic this week. In the late 16th and early 17th centuries, Countess Elisabet Bathory stands accused of enough bloodshed to drown all of Hungary. Was this madly vicious Hungarian countess truly a serial killer and a monster, or is there perhaps another explanation of the events of that time? Tonight, we go historical true crime with the Blood Countess Elisabet Bathory.
Woohoo!
Sounds like a vampire name.
But first, what's my Krysta been up to?
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Krysta Corner.
Yay!
Yay!
New decorations up on these walls once again.
Are there?
No!
Theoretically,
Dad.
hypothetically,
Well, there is a new drawing from your little sister.
There is.
There is.
Wow.
Absolutely.
But anyways,
Yeah.
Welcome to my theoretical corner, where I talk to you about how my life has been in these past couple of weeks.
I like the way you did your hand there. That.
Thank you. You don't want to know who I get it from?
Who?
That wonderful person right there.
Really? You get that from me? Cool.
Oh, yes. Of course.
I thought she got that from you.
No, you've got the flair in this family.
The flare is on your side, apparently, Dad.
Absolutely.
That makes me say, woo!
Oh, I knew it was coming.
You said I had flair.
I know I did, and I was afraid that's where you were going to take it, and you did.
And you did. Alright, so let's see here. What have I been up to?
Yeah, what have you been up to, my Krysta, my Krysta?
5, 6? Huh? 5, 6 and a half?
5'6". Yeah. 5'6". I am 5'6", for those who are wondering.
Yeah.
I'm 5'6". But, I don't know what that is converted into inches. Don't ask me, I don't know. Anyways, exactly
66 inches.
No one.
Yeah, it is. 5'6" is
Or
60.
centimeters. I meant centimeters.
Oh.
That's centimeters. That would be a lot.
But anyways, I have been going back and forth to school, and I've been learning. And as I told you guys last time, I am on my way to be trying to find new things in the world to inspire me on my way of learning on how to write and learning different perspectives of how other people see the world. We've been talking about resilience in class in ELA, and it's been helping me tremendously with my thoughts on how to do stuff as an author.
Cool.
Because I can tell if my characters in my stories are being resilient buttheads or just plain old common characters.
Wow.
They could be stubborn.
They could be stubborn too. Or they could be a mix of things.
That's what your mom always accuses me of, is being stubborn.
Oh no, honey, that's not an accusation. That's a fact.
Yeah. But besides that decoration in the corner over here, I have learned that I can actually sort of draw humans. That's been fun.
Cool.
We've been drawing in Agmograph and art. And I've gotten pretty far with it. And I've made new friends in that class, and it's been fun.
You made new friends.
I did. The one I'm friends with now, we'll call her
Martha.
Yeah, we'll call her Martha. She's very nice. And the person I have been with in the past couple of months, I am now. We just passed our 2nd month anniversary.
Yay!
And we're halfway
So
to
cute.
We're
That
halfway.
first teen relationship. So nice.
Yeah,
We're halfway.
but it doesn't count because she hasn't brought him over for me to meet.
I mean, we were talking about it. There's this dance coming up, and I really wanted to go with him, but I'll make sure he comes over and visits you. It's fine. But yeah, that's new in the school corner. Let's see. At home, I've been doing a lot of cleaning and stuff.
A lot of cleaning?
Not a lot of cleaning, but like
Okay.
a lot of packing and stuff.
I've been doing some packing. That is true.
As a family, we have been in a tight spot recently, so.
That is true. Alrighty.
Anyway, yeah, that's about it for catching up with Krysta.
Wow, that's it?
Yeah. I've said a lot. I've said a bit too much.
Nah, you did okay.
You did great. Well, I love you, and I don't think you said too much at all. If anything, you didn't say enough.
Alright.
So, that takes us to Elisabet Bathory.
Yep. Still sounds like a vampire lady.
Well, they did call her the Blood Countess.
And you know, she supposedly did a lot of bleeding of people. So sounding like a vampire definitely would be right up the alley for someone with these kinds of descriptions.
Alrighty, so let's get on to it then. Elisabet, and I'm using the actual Hungarian version of her name, which is Elisabet, not Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. But if you were going to anglicize her entire name, she would become Elizabeth, because Elisabet is Hungarian for Elizabeth.
Yep.
Elisabet Bathory was born in 1560 in a castle at near Batur, Royal Hungary. Her father was Baron George Bathory VI, brother to Andrew Bonaventure Bathory, a voivode of Transylvania, which it basically means he was one of its rulers. So that puts him in with Vlad Tepes. So yeah, there's that. Oh, also, Andrew Bonaventure Bathory was a distant relative to Vlad Tepes. Now, her mother was Baroness Anna Bathory, and through her parents, she was connected to kings, dukes, and other nobility. She was a Habsburg, basically.
Okay.
Habsburgs were a group of medieval kings that ruled a lot of places. A lot. And they ruled quite a bit of places. In fact, if you're big into the Illuminati, the Habsburgs are one of the families that's listed as one of the families that rules the world. And there was truth to that once upon a time, but I don't know if there's any Habsburgs still in any kind of power anywhere. But Elizabeth was a Habsburg, so she was pretty big. She was connected to the King of Hungary, to Polish dukes, to you name it. Lots of other nobility. Now, Elizabeth also suffered from seizures as a child, possibly brought on by epilepsy. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, that was a little before the diagnosis.
Well, and here's the thing about Elizabeth. She lived at a time where we really didn't keep birth certificates. There really wasn't, like, so many people could be born and die, and they just didn't keep track of their existence.
Right.
So, now, Bathory was raised a Calvinist Protestant, and as a child, she learned Latin, German, Hungarian, and Greek, in addition to, those were the languages she learned, which pretty common for nobility back then. If you were born poor, chances are you were going to farm someone else's land from birth to death. If you weren't born poor, you could learn languages and study things.
Right.
The only way for the masses to come up on the social ladder was to go into some sort of church training. Unfortunately, not enough positions in the church to have a place for everybody.
Right.
So, now, as a Calvinist, Calvinists were pretty strict in their interpretations of the Bible. Like, Calvinists were big on, like, you don't forgive someone for breaking a commandment. They're pretty... Let me put it this way. They're not fun at parties.
Hard asses.
Yeah.
Huh. What? You're 13. Like, you never used the word ass before.
Now, this is kind of interesting. Krysta, how old are you?
13.
Well, supposedly, when Countess Bathory was 13, she gave birth to a child.
Ew.
Rumors insist the child was fathered by a peasant, and thus the family gave the child.
That's a no.
Yes. But again, it's only rumor. We don't know for sure.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, if the tale are true, according to the tales, the family gave the child away to a peasant girl and sent her away. Now, this rumor was mostly told by peasants back in the day, so it could be just a way for them to connect to the nobility.
Right.
And so it's possible that this is not true. Many scholars don't believe it, just because they don't think that Bathory reads as someone who, even as a young woman, would dally with a peasant.
I see.
She seemed like someone who knew her social station and was likely to stay in it.
Gotcha.
So, now on May 8th, 1573, Countess Bathory was engaged to Count Ferenc Nadasdy. His wedding gifts to her would include a castle, plus several country estates and 17 villages.
Well, you know.
Quite a gift, actually.
Well, just, yeah. I mean, sounds like it might be a pain in the butt to wrap, but other than that, yeah, you can't really go wrong with fancy buildings and.
Now, this was a political marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Count Ferenc would not spend a lot of time with her, mostly because he was a soldier for the Hungarian army, and he was a good soldier, and he was a count, so he was a commander on the field of battle. So, and at this point, the Hungarians were engaged in near constant battle with the people of the Ottoman Empire, who were throwing furniture at them.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're part of the Ottoman Empire, that's what you do.
So they wouldn't get a lot of.
That's a joke, right, Crystalline?
Yeah.
Do you know what an Ottoman is?
No.
So an Ottoman's like what you some people use it for storage, or you put your feet on it when you're sitting in a chair, you know.
Yeah.
You've got your phone. You can look it up that way if you want.
Alrighty then.
Let's just move on.
Please continue.
Please continue, yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a word from our sponsors.
A word from our sponsors.
A sponsor word.
How do you feel, honey?
I feel sponsored.
Yeah.
There you go. Yay.
Yay.
So, now, as I said, the Count wasn't home very much. And while I'm not going to go into details of where he was and when he was, like 3 years after their wedding, the Count became the main leader of the Hungarian troops, whom he led near constantly in campaigns against the Ottoman Empire. While Ferenc waged war, Elizabeth treated the people as best she could, even intervening on behalf of peasants injured during the war. Because while Ferenc was out running around and waging war, she had to deal with the villages that she'd inherited. She had to make sure the castles were defended, especially if it was anywhere near the Ottoman Empire, because she couldn't have people taking them over, so she had to work on their defense. So she was a pretty savvy woman for her time.
Savvy?
Smart.
There's a lot going on here. First we were talking about furniture, now we're talking about fences.
Now we're
There's like so much building materials that could get really hectic. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's what they liked it as.
Feel free to cut all of that out. It was really funny in my head, but I just sound ridiculous to my own self. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Apologize.
So,
it was so bad I threw him completely off track.
it's okay. So, in 1601, Ferenc suffers some sort of medical issue. People don't know, but he's been waging war as a career now for the better part of 50 years.
Wow.
It began with a debilitating pain in the legs, and by 1603, he was completely disabled before dying the following year from whatever this strange illness was.
So probably something like maybe like an MS kind of thing, or
MS, or perhaps an injury that,
like a cancer or something that just
yeah, Or, like I said, it could have been an injury, like maybe he got a cut in the back and the spine began to degenerate, which would lead to...
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, so it
Could have been anything. They're not like it was, they didn't have the same kinds of care that we do, obviously.
I was going to say, in addition to the fact that they didn't keep track of people very well back in those days, they also didn't have good medicine in those days.
Nope.
So, now, one of the things that Bathory did while her husband was gone is she would train noblewomen in courtly manners and how you behave in court and stuff like that. And she also, of course, had she had a lot of servants, and she would take on new ones from among the peasants' girls in the town she went to.
Why?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
If she saw a servant girl she liked, she would hire her.
I see.
I don't like how that sounds.
Exactly.
Now, the serving girls, according to the story that's told, again, we don't have verification for this, but right around the time of her husband's death, these peasant girls, these serving girls, started to disappear. Later, these women, the families of these lesser nobility, were sending to her gymnasium, and let me spell that, Gynaceum. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but yeah, they were sending their daughters to her gymnasium to learn courtly manners. Those women began to disappear as well, and while the most of the nobles ignored the peasants because they're peasants, and the peasants are revolting, meaning they stink on ice.
They probably stink off of ice too. But
yeah, well, you know. So, starting in 1610, officials began investigating Bathory for these disappearances. And her husband, when he passed, had left care of his family to a friend. And this friend was sent to go and investigate the castle. Now, he claimed, and his soldiers claimed, that when they went into the castle, what they found was horrifying. Bodies of lots of girls. Supposedly, Elizabeth was bathing in blood.
Delightful.
And there were lots of dead girls and lots of girls in the midst of being tortured.
Oh, wow.
Supposedly, and this is how I've always heard the story, supposedly, as Countess Bathory aged, she regretted the loss of her beauty. And she did everything she could to maintain and continue it. And one day, because she was kind of hard on the servant girls, she slapped one of them, hard enough to make her bleed. And where the blood got on her hand, she thought the skin looked younger.
Oh, no. So she killed all these women and bathed in their blood to make herself look younger.
Yep.
And more beautiful.
Yep. That
Dumb.
That's the story.
Dumb. Dumbity dum 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 dum.
Some reports state that up to 650 girls died at Bathory's hands. In fact, Wikipedia doesn't list her as a Hungarian countess. They list her as a Hungarian serial killer.
Yeah, that's the rightful title for her, because she's on my bad list right now, I swear.
Bathory at this point was put on house arrest and died a few years later after leaving her land to her children and other family to keep the lands in her family. Now, her last night, basically she lived in house arrest. She was in her castle and really couldn't leave this suite of rooms. And at one point, she went up to one of her guards, not her guards, but one of the guards, and said her hands were cold. And the guard apparently said, "It's nothing, miss. Go to bed." And she did, and she was found dead the next morning. So let's talk about those 650 girls. We don't have birth certificates or death certificates.
Just certificates.
We don't have any proof that they existed at all. And in fact, there are scholars who say it is possible, and some will say it's even likely that Bathory's charges were simply made up. That she did nothing wrong and was persecuted because between the land she already had and the land she inherited from her husband, she owned much of royal Hungary, and the crown had even borrowed money from her, money that they didn't have to pay back now that she was imprisoned in her castle.
I see.
And also, because she was a murderer and scoundrel. So there is a theory that she was just framed.
Well,
She was bathing in blood.
Supposedly.
Was she dead when they found her?
No, she wasn't dead when they found her, but the person who found her was looking in on her for the king that owed her money and didn't want to repay it. The king that wanted her lands to revert to royal Hungary as much as possible.
You think I'm joking? I'm not. This ain't funny.
So now there is a caveat to this. Because the reason that she got investigated in the first place was that a priest had decided to look into these missing noblewomen. And because he could not find them, and because he did not trust Bathory, he made public charges against her that she was killing these peasants and these noblewomen. Plus, he made an open charge in the court at Vienna. So, if he's real, then at least some of the charges might have been real. So
you feel like you think that might have all just been fake and falsified.
Bogus. Did you think it was bogus, Dad?
Did I see? She's someone I think it's possible, because women in this time period weren't looked upon.
That's true.
Like they just they didn't value women in this time period.
Not even a little. You're absolutely right about that.
And so having a strong woman who controlled a lot of land and who held a debt over the king, who is a Habsburg, by the way. I can see it being very easy for them to take her out and to do it in such a way so that
make her go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, I could see that. And I could also see, like, if the king were to just kill all of those women for...
But see, we don't even know if those women existed, Krysta.
I mean, then whose blood was she bathing in?
We don't know for sure that she was bathing in blood.
The reports we have, Krysta, come from a person that was told to go and investigate her for crimes. Mm-hmm. And he may have been told to find proof of crimes. So he may have just made it all up.
You know, that would be very fair. But the thing is, weren't there complaints about the women going missing?
There were some, yeah.
So, do you think that would just be a coincidence?
Well, okay. Again, this is the Middle Ages. This is the 16th and 17th century. 1500s to 1600s. They didn't watch their people. You could die on a highway somewhere and nobody would ever know.
Nobody would ever care. So maybe your family.
It's not like even the roads were just dirt paths that had been walked by, merchants and others who traveled, and there wasn't a lot of them.
Fair enough.
Elisabet Bathory has been featured in the second Fright Night film as a bad guy.
Yeah.
And has appeared in many books and other movies as well. She turns up quite a bit, usually.
Well, I mean, it definitely fits in with, like, vampire lore, with evil, sketchy, shady, shadowy, despicable characters. If what she's accused of doing were true, then you can see why that would cause people to include her in things like that.
Right. So, anyway, so that's what we know about her. Final thoughts, hun?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility that she could have been framed, but I mean, who can really say at the end of the day?
All we have is we know a few of her servants disappeared and supposedly a few of these noblewomen disappeared. Supposedly. But again, it's not like we have birth certificates or death certificates to know if any of these women were ever alive.
Yep.
And also, there's a possibility, like I said, if these women ever really were alive, that the king could have freaking taken them out himself. Because you said it yourself, that women weren't very important back then.
Mm-hmm.
No, they weren't. They weren't at all. Now, which, let me just say, I don't agree with that, mind you, but... Mm-hmm. And the thing is that...
I mean, as a woman myself, I don't agree with that either.
Like Elisabet Bathory ran her husband's castle, ran her husband's kingdoms, all while he was at war. So she was certainly a capable female. And here's the other side of that, is she had those epileptic fits. They say that traumatic brain injury, like a lot of serial killers, will start with these traumatic brain injuries.
Sure, I mean, if you're going to be messed up in the head, you might as well get messed up in the head.
Exactly. So it's 50%, one or the other. If you like the story of the Blood Countess being there and killing a bunch of women, then you can believe that. I just go ahead.
No, you were talking first.
No, go ahead.
I just feel like it's too simplistic of a story to be like all out there and be like, oh, this is real. It's not fake. I mean, it could be real, but then again, you look at it and you're just like, this man didn't want to pay her the debt that he owed, so you just came up with a plot.
And that's very possible. That is far more possible than you'd know. And I guess for me, it's 50-50. It really flip a coin, see what you like. Which is sad because I used to believe that she was this villain, but it's all too easy to demonize people in the Middle Ages. All you really have to do is say they did something. And just the story itself, it's so overtold. It's not that she killed 30 people or 40 people. It's hundreds of people.
It was flipped around, and she was the queen, and he was the person who was protecting people, or not protecting people, but keeping people there during the war and stuff. You would believe that he was the bad guy, and she wasn't.
Right.
So, like, why wouldn't you think the other way for this one as well? It doesn't matter the gender.
I think you're right, but I think it does matter in that in the Middle Ages.
For the Middle Ages, sure, but nowadays we understand that gender doesn't really matter. Both genders can do it.
Right, but I'm just saying in the Middle Ages, they just didn't value women very much. So getting rid of one, even one as with it and capable as she seemed to be, didn't really matter to them.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand why they're all in there now being like, oh, she did this because she's capable of it. No, do you have any proof? No.
And that's just it. Unfortunately, this part of the world, there's
believed a lot of stuff that men said back then because men were apparently the protectors of everything. And I'm not saying that if it was flipped around, we should believe women more than men. I'm just saying it's very disrespectful to the other gender.
That's true. Also, well, again, we just don't know. You know, it's not like this day and age where we can track serial killers because the women or the people that a serial killer kills have birth certificates and death dates, and you can look into them, but you just can't with this. And just to me, when you start saying, and she killed 650 people, well, yeah, she did it with, the help of her guards and whatnot, but that's still, it sounds like a ridiculous number made up to upset peasants and the minor nobility to...
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm just like, you cannot...
Yeah, you would think by the time 100 or 150 people went missing within the course of a year or even a couple of years, the townspeople are going to be up in arms and being, storming that darn castle, not just letting more and more people go,
Right. So, and I guess for me, that's it. It's flip a coin, pick a side, whatever side lands, that's what you get. That's how I feel. But how do you feel, listeners? Let us know. If, you feel like she was very guilty, then please let us know.
Absolutely.
Or if you feel like she was completely innocent, let us know that as well.
Weigh in.
We don't have an issue with you guys talking to us.
That's our show.
It's our show.
Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Bill Barrett, who does our theme music. Thank you, Bill. And if you need music for a project, Bill's your guy. Just reach out to him at Bill Barrett, BEHRENDT, at sbcglobal.net. Also, thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime for doing our logo art along with our little Miss Krysta here. Thank you. Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you, Paige, and thank you, Krysta.
You're welcome.
Thanks to Aaron Gnerk of the Big Dumb Fun Show for, helping us out with local promotion as he does. Also, join us next week as we discuss John Wilkes Booth.
Before we end,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
Are they aware about the art that I've done?
Which art?
The cover art? Yeah, he just gave you promo. He just gave you props
For the cover art for this one, but not for the other one.
Oh, for the new. Oh, but we haven't announced that officially yet, so no.
My fault.
No problem.
It's okay.
My fault.
It's all right. So join us next week as we discuss John Wilkes Booth.
Yay! Bye!
Bye!